Shall we start now?
This call is now being recorded.
Shall we start now?
Yeah, definitely.
Good morning, all. On behalf of IOT Academy, I welcome you all for the third session of National Level Faculty Development Program on Basics of Research and Funding Opportunities. Let me introduce the resource person of today's session, Dr. Vidya Arjun Rao Nagre. She is currently working with Ajinkya Divek Patel University, Pune, as an associate professor of English in the School of Liberal Arts. Dr. Vidya has been teaching linguistics, English language and literature for 12 years. Her qualifications include MA, MPhil and PhD in English. Dr. Vidya is a PhD guide of English and an honorable member of the Board of Studies. She has to her credit several articles published in national and international journals and conferences. Besides teaching, she is a recognized translator and a certified examiner for Cambridge. She has also worked as a moderator, syllabus and curriculum designer expert in various institutions. With this, I hand over the session to Dr. Vidya Nagre. Ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Welcome.
It's an honor to be associated with IoT again. Let me check few things first before we begin. If my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am, your screen is visible. Ma'am.
Great. Am I audible properly?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Ma'am.
That's great.
Thank you.
So, good morning, all of you, all the scholars, dignitaries, research scholars especially. In today's talk, Writing Effective Research Funding Proposal. It will be more on discussion oriented. I have gone through several projects. I have been associated with several projects, research projects, and I have had certain experiences. We also began from zero. I also had worked on various steps of the ladder to reach to this destination. So whatever experiences I have had and whatever research I have done, I have spent my around 10 years in research itself. And so I have 14 years of teaching experience. I am a doctorate set qualified in English. At the same time, I am working on certain projects in linguistics, which is forte. At the same time, I am guiding PhD students, as ma'am has mentioned. So throughout all this journey and throughout my own personal experience and research, I have came across certain experiences which I have jotted down here in the form of PPT. And whenever you will feel that you want to raise a question or you have a doubt or you want to discuss something, kindly raise your hand or let me know. Ma'am, I cannot see the other screen as I am on this preview mode. So kindly intimate me on the same.
Yes, ma'am, sure.
So to begin with, let us first discuss some basics. It's actually a very vast topic. I am trying my best to cover as many things as possible within an hour, as we have some time limitation. And I hope that this will be a very fruitful and very helpful session for those who really aspire to apply for funds in future or who are already applying. And we are also discussing or going to discuss the flaws or the causes for rejection of funding proposals also. So we will be focusing on both basically. So what are the basic things you have to start writing or start thinking about the funding proposal is where you have to first identify the area of the research in which you have to conduct your research. Once it's finalized, you have to take a tentative measurement in the size of mind mapping. What are the resources, equipments, and resources? So in means the physical resources, at the same time material resources, financial resources, manpower, and all other things included in it. So what are the resources will it need? So you have to take a mind mapping of that. At the same time, you have to approach to the fund raises. They are also known as capital venturist, right? Venture capitalist. So this venture capitalist often support various projects which have a bright future, right? So you have to write a funding proposal in such a way which will convince the fund giver, the venture capitalist, which will convince the venture capitalist in such a way that it, through your funding proposal, you have to show the world the value of your proposal, value of your research, that how your research is going to be beneficial in future from various perspectives. Not necessary that you have to be only assert every time that your research will be financially beneficial. Not necessary. It can be a boon or a contribution for a social cause. It can be an addition to the existing stream of a knowledge, or it may investigate some existing problem, and it may come out with some solution oriented thought process. So it can be anything. So do not I right now, whenever you start drafting your proposal, or whenever you start thinking about the finalizing the area of research, please consider in mind that there are various fund givers who have their own norms. There are certain people who would like to support only those projects which will be financially beneficial in future. There will be some other companies like Tata, or let's say Infosys, who are very generously donating in the for the cause of education, child education, basically. So they are not looking for any returns, financial returns as such, but they are trying to contribute into the projects which will help in some social cause, or which will resolve certain issues in certain areas. For example, children's education or something like that. So for that, what you have to do first thing is you have to read the funders guideline. That is what I have mentioned here as a point number one. So every funder has a guideline given. Most probably, they do have guidelines. They have their own requirements. For example, some people who are financially really well off, who are not looking into financial returns, but who wants to contribute into a social cause, but it is not possible for them to personally engage into social projects. So they engage themselves through the means of finances, or supporting finance, giving a financial aid to the NGOs or the researchers who want to conduct research or do projects in certain areas, social that will benefit in the social cause, right? So these are certain norms that you have to consider. So first thing, you have to find out if that funder has certain guidelines. If they do have, please read it carefully and follow each beat and piece of it very carefully, because they are very particular in their requirements. They have certain design in or a frame, and they want people to be fitted. Okay, so go for it. Now, another question is, what if they do not have any guidelines as such, right? There might be certain venture capitalists who may not have certain strict and fixed guidelines, but they may have certain norms. So better you try to approach them through some middleman, might be a manager or a counselor or coordinator of their company, and just try to gaze out if they have certain norms. Many times they do have, many of the fund supporting companies do have their own forms or their own templates or formats. So you have to follow those only. That time you cannot do, go for your creativity, or you cannot add on the points. You have to strictly fix into it. So for example, if there are certain companies who are offering financial aid to the research projects, who are contributing into social cause, right? So what you have to do at that time is you have to check out for their format, and then what you have to do is you have to go through those formats properly, and then you have to fix your information into only those word limits those they have asked, or else they might have given you questions. So you have to follow those questions, and then give a description for each question. answer their questions. In a way, they whatever information they are seeking from your side, they will receive it in a proper form. But I would like to recommend that you will always better prepare your own funding proposal in whatever points we will be discussing in that format. So you will have the information ready, handy, right? So whenever you get even a different format, you can easily pick information from your own proposal and paste it, or you can modify it according to the need. So most of these formats do have common structure. Okay, and then so these points are overlapping, they are repetitive. There are very less possibilities that, or there are possibilities that certain points might be less, or there might be addition or few more points in those formats. Otherwise, the overall format is same. So what the funding proposal begins with is the title page. So there is a nice title page that you have to draft, in which you have to write your title of your project in a bold capital letters, not all caps, initials only, initials caps. You just have to go through the rules of writing the title in capital letters, okay? With the first letter only capital, bold. Do not do italics or something, because italics has some different norms in research itself. Okay, so once you write a central alignment, justified format, if they are not providing any format, in that case we are talking about. Once you write the title, then your details, who is applying for, whom you are applying to, and then name of your company, address, and the date, including month and the year. This will be the information that will occur in the page one, title page. Second will be the abstract. Now, abstract is like a soul of your project or soul of your proposal, because your whole proposal is going to be relied on this. Now, abstract is like a mirror, or let's say an opening door, like a window. The person tries to gaze or glance through the window and try to understand what will be the interior of the house like, what is your proposal is like. So you have to bring all the essential elements into the abstract. You have to make sure that you add on all the essential points here in the abstract. Now, very important point is you have to remember abstract is a small part of the body of your funding proposal, and it has some limitation. It is just 1/3 of your whole document. So you have to draft it very carefully. You have to use words economically. You have to understand all these you have to take care of all these things very carefully, because abstract means a very small piece of the write-up. It should not be too lengthy, but it is very crucial, because it is like an opening door. Okay, it is like an opening door that will take the fund supporter to your project, and that is the first chance to convince your supporter or your financer to read your project. If you do not draft your abstract carefully, the financer will lose the interest immediately, and they will not even go ahead with it, or they will give it to somebody else to read it, and not necessary that other people will take the follow up, right? So you have to make sure that you draft your abstract very importantly. So what are the things you have to draft, write in abstract? That, let's talk about that first. So in abstract, basically you have to talk about what your project is, basically what is your title of your project, which area you have finalized for your research, what will be your sample size, thereafter what are the problems that you are trying to investigate, statement of problem, thereafter what will be the possible solutions or possible findings of your projects. Two three of those, only these things should be there. You don't talk about the financial or whatever the cost your project may incur. Don't talk about that in the abstract. Talk about only the reason for your research and the possible benefits of your research. These are two things very important to be included in the abstract, and that is the only convincing point through which the financier will consider your proposal at least to read. Next point after abstract begins your proposal, and under that is the introduction. Introduction has statement of problem. Second point is purpose of your research and your goals or aims and objectives of your research. What are your aims through this project? Thereafter, significance of the research. Why your research is important. This particular point is very important because your whole, success of your proposal depends on this point, significance of your research. If you could write the why you, it is very important to conduct this research. See, definitely you have to do something that has not done by somebody else before. Repetitive things people don't support easily. Or else, if somebody else has conducted a research but left it half, or the you might have observed that whatever results jotted down from the previous researchers are not enough or might be wrong, and that's why you have to begin fresh. So whatever it is, you have to identify that and mention it in a very proper way in your significance of research. Literature review is very important. Now, why literature review is important here? Under literature review, it will talk about all the articles or other proposals or books or any other information, piece of information or document of information that you have gone through uh, as a part of your research before finalizing this topic or before finalizing certain area as your location for your research or sample size, right? So this happens especially when we write research papers, right? Then you may think that why is it important here to be written in the funding proposal then? Because in funding research proposal, it is very important to at this point in order to let the financer understand that how serious you are and what kind of deep knowledge you possess. You are not somebody who have randomly heard about this kind of need of research in this area and you just have to start it randomly. It's not like that. You have done a foundation study, a basic study before starting your project or before even applying for the fund. This is what is understood from your literature review. So it shows your in-depth knowledge, that you have enough knowledge about the kind of topic you are going to handle, kind of research you are going to handle, right? So that is why you have to definitely mention literature review here and try to add on prominent articles, prominent even somebody has written reports. Okay, if there are some government reports or reports given by certain bodies, for example, there are certain bodies of government at the same time non-government bodies which conduct surveys on various topics, various social problems and so on. So if you have surveys or reports of those, mention about that in literature you review. You just have to write the title of the document that you have referred. It might be a survey, it might be an article, it might be a news article or some research paper or some book or something very culminative or some previous research. Somebody has a research report. So give a title and write 2-3 lines about it. Give a title of the next article, write 2-3 lines about it and write your opinion on it. So these are certain points that you have to take care of. Project narrative. So now project narrative, under project narrative, you are going to talk about how you are going to conduct your research. These are all tentative things. There might happen certain changes. Do not worry about it. But right now, you have certain roadmap. Okay, you have certain brain map, and that accordingly you know what direction you have to walk on, right? So you have to just put those things forth here through the project narrative. Under that will come methods. What are the methods through which you will conduct your research? Procedures. What is the procedure of your research? So how will you begin? Then how much time will it incur? What are will be your steps included in it? How will you approach to the target audience or target samples, resource samples? So all these things will come under procedures. Thereafter, objectives. What are your major objectives through this project? Thereafter, possible outcomes or deliverables. You have to definitely mention, I mean, it is compulsory to mention possible outcomes of your project. Unless and until you are aware about the tentative conclusions of your study, you cannot even conduct a research. You should have a basic idea about it. Not necessarily that it will come true. There is some null hypothesis, you might be aware about it. Okay, but you have to put forth or consider certain kind of outcomes. Now, again, the success of your proposal is very much dependent on this point, that outcome of your research. Why? I mean, possible outcome of your research. Because the financer will decide if these possible outcomes are really worth, are they going to contribute. So if somebody wants financial returns, then they will think about how much financial return I may get, and then accordingly they will decide if they have to invest in your project or not, they have to support in your research or not, right? Otherwise, if you do not write your outcomes, or if you fail to write concrete outcomes, you will not get the financial support. Please mind it. So you have to draft your outcomes very carefully and in a very assertive manner. Evaluation and dissemination. These are certain points will come under project narratives. There are the personnel and budget and budget justification. We'll discuss these points in detail in next PPTs. Funder with no writing guidelines. This is what we are discussing here already. So these are certain steps included. Give me a moment. Okay. So it begins from down. Okay, from bottom to top. So first is generating your ideas. You get some idea, or you come across certain, observe certain problem in the society, and then you decide this is something that you have to certainly work upon, and this problem has to be resolved. And you know what are the things that you can, methods you can apply to resolve this problem, and then accordingly you can work on. So first thing is generating ideas or getting a thought. Thereafter, finding funding. Now, this is something important because major projects, bigger projects definitely need lot of money, which is not possible to be incurred those costs to the common people, right? And you definitely need some financial aid. So you have to find resources. For example, if you finalize some social issue to be resolved from education sector, let's say, then you have to find out certain finances who finance to social projects which are working in uh, only education sector. So how to find that out is a big question. You can list certain companies, bigger companies, or venture capitalists who give funds. Okay. And then you can contact all of them one by one and scrutinize which are ready to give funds for your projects, or might be interested, and who say that send us a proposal. Okay. Second important thing that you can do is try to find out some similar projects happening already in the area that of research that you have chosen, and approach them, that who are funding them and how did they approach them. Try to get some contacts. So you have to build a network. So this network building is very important in this step. Once you get sort down people who might fund you or who ask for a proposal, next step that you have to develop a very nice proposal, or you can already develop a proposal and immediately send it out to those who are interested to fund you, not necessarily ready to fund you, right? So develop a proposal, it's very important. This is what will take time. Thereafter, submit the proposal. Then the people, the financier or the committee of the financier, will scrutinize all the documents, the validity of your project, the success ratio of your conclusions or outcomes, and then according to that they will decide if they really would like to invest or support your research. Will they support it fully or partially? So according to that they announce the grant, they give you the grant. And once you receive that money, then next important point comes is managing those grants and then conducting your research. These are certain lines. So let's say the outline is for a project proposal and is most appropriate for a project that is trying to correct a problem such as water pollution, school truancy, or ignorance about how HIV/AIDS is transmitted, especially among the youngsters. The grant proposal as a whole, not including supplementary material, should usually be 5 pages or less. So it should be a readable document. It should not be like a thesis or a full book. Nobody will entertain that. So within a short space, you have to put all the essential details and then make sure that you convince the fellow to fund you for your project. So to begin with, how to write a summary or an abstract, right? At the beginning of your proposal, it comes at the beginning of your proposal or on the cover sheet. You can add a separate sheet of it before you start with the introduction of your proposal. Write a 2 or 3 sentence summary of your proposal. It should not be too lengthy, right? It helps the reader to follow your argument. So what argument you have made, that how your proposal will be successful. So as I told you, please mention why do you want to conduct this research and what will be the possible benefits. These 2 points has to be added. Now let's see in this example. Annunciation shelter request rupees 50,000 for a 2-year 2 lakh job training program for homeless women in Southern West Jharkhand. Training will be offered at 4 rural shelters and will include basic clerical skills, interview techniques, and job seeker support groups. So these are certain things that you are going to offer through a training program. And before that, you have to just jot down, find out homeless women. Okay. And then you have to help them so they can stand on, they can make their life, they can be financially independent, or at least they will have some helping hand. So this is what is written here through this short summary. Now, next important point here is you have to give your organization important information. So this should be just 2-3 pages, paragraphs about your organ. What are the things you have to include here about your organization? What is your organization? Who you are, about us? What is the major functioning of your organization? Why it can be trusted to use funds effectively? These are certain things you have to write about. Briefly summarize your organization's history. If you have undertaken any project before, or if you have conducted any other research, mention about that. State your mission. What is your major goal? What is the mission of your organization? If you do not have, please draft that down. Create one and then mention it. Make sure that you mention it in your proposal. That definitely creates an impression. Whom you serve and your track of record of achievements, if you have any previous records. If you are fresh, mention only mission statement and how successfully will you conduct the research. Clearly describe or list your programs. If your programs are many or complex, consider adding an organization chart or other attachments that explain them. So if needed, for example, when we say complex organization, for example, if you need many people, team of many people, and to manage those various teams, if you need team leaders, and to managing team leaders, you need a manager, and to above the manager will be the director, the chairman of this organization. So if you have an organogram, you can create your own organogram in a tree form and then put a separate sheet of it. So that will help the next person also to understand how will your organization operate. So they will get a clear idea about how the finances will be managed, how the funds will be utilized. At the same time, you can even draft a diagram of the itinerary of your overall project, how your research will start, from where it will begin, what are the branches in which it will operate, then how will you lead to the common conclusion, and then how will you distribute the benefits to the that targeted society. Okay, then if your programs are many complex, add another sheet to it. Describe your budget size. Now this is something is crucial. Definitely you are asking for funds, so you have to write about it very clearly. Please write it in a very neat and clean tabular form. Make a nice put some nice tables. Do not write in paragraphs because that complicates things. Make a list of all things that you think are really crucial, where you will need finances. Take your sweet time, do not hurry. Add even the smallest things that you think will incur. For example, 5 rupees for, not 5 rupees definitely. Let's say you may need some thousands of rupees for your Xerox or something, or you may need a ream of paper for, then add cost of that also. So take your time and think what are the things you may need. Describe your budget side, where you are located, who runs the organization and does the work. Other details that build the credibility of your group. If other groups in your region work on the same issues, explain how they are different and how you collaborate with them uh, if you do. So if you are already working with somebody else, then talk about them also. Okay. Even give all the details. Those will build a credibility of your group. So they will feel like trusting you. Show that how your organization is authentic and how the finances provided by them will be used in a very proper way. Even if you have received funds from this grant maker before, your introduction should be complete. So, though you have received any grant before this person, or might be you have already applied for a grant to these people, but they might have rejected, no issues. Please write it fresh, because not necessarily all the team members are the same like the previous. So you have to write everything in detail as if you are applying for the first time itself, because sometimes funders hire outside reviewers who may not be familiar with your organization. So give all details afresh. Problems need a situation description. Now, when you will talk about the statement of problem, this is something on the basis of which you will convince them how important is your project or how important it is to conduct the research. Convince the funder that the issue you want to tackle is important and show that your organization is an expert on this issue. So you have a base knowledge to conduct this research. Don't assume the funder knows everything. So add an informative article or suggest some background reading. If there are certain YouTube videos or certain articles that you think will add on into the information to understand the gravity of the problem that you want to explore or you want to find a solution to, then suggest it in the reading. There are few people who definitely like exploring more to understand on the statement of problem or problem that you would like to conduct a research on. Why is this situation important? To whom did your organization talk? Or what research did you do to learn about the issue and decide how to tackle it? So you have to mention all these points. Describe the situation in both factual and human interest terms, if possible. Now, factual means again, you have to show that this will be financially helpful. At the same time, this will also be helpful through the point of view of the society. So there will be definitely some contribution to the benefit or well-being of the society. So this is what you have to mention through your proposal. Provide ample data. Your organization, the ample data that will show that your organization is an expert in that field. So they will trust in giving, trust you, and they will be assured of this fact that you will successfully conduct the research. If you lack data, then consider doing your own research study, even if it is very simple. So please conduct a research by yourself first. Okay, do ample literature review and then start writing proposal. Do not write a proposal in a hurry. Otherwise, it may fail to convince the next person. Describe your issue in as local as a context possible. If you want to educate people in your country about HIV/AIDS, tell the funder that the pandemic in your country or locality you have chosen, not in Asia or the world as a whole, because you cannot conduct research in other regions. It will be an umbrella term and you will never end up finishing your research. So, first, finalize, narrow down your topic, narrow down your target sample size. Okay, and mention about that. Only then it becomes practical. Describe the problem in simple way. Avoid generalized picture like nuclear war or teen suicide in general and so on. So make sure that you talk about certain things which are practical, which has solutions, and though not on a larger scale, but you will begin with helping a small target audience first. So if you help that small mob, then you may definitely start your work on a larger scale and you will get more funds, might be from the same organization or they may give a very strong references to other venture capitalists. Don't describe the problem as an absence of your project. Now, this is something is very crucial. You have to make sure to use a very positive and assertive language in your funding proposal. Do not use negations like this. We don't have enough beds in our battered women's shelter is not the problem. Having no beds is not a problem. The problem is increasing level of domestic violence. So more shelters are needed, more beds are needed. That is a solution. What do you do not have is not a solution. You don't talk about in that term. Talk in a very assertive and positive terms. Uh, you talk about the work plan and specific activity in your next goal. Explain what your organization plans to do about the problem. So, what are your possible steps? How is your itinerary? How have you planned to work on this particular research? What are your overall goals? For example, you might say the goals of these projects are to increase the understanding among the Indian middle school students about the impact of smoking on their health and to reduce the number of students who smoke. You can't say that you can get 100% success, but this is something is very practical and feasible too, achievable too. You also have to give other details. What is your target audience or what is your sample size, target sample, and how will you involve them in the activity? How will you engage them? How will you conduct a research on them? For example, these teens who smoke, they won't be easily opening up that yeah or accepting the fact that yes, they do smoke. So how will you find it out? How will you make them to talk on this? And this is a first step. And then how will you convince them? So all these things you have to mention it in a very clear way in your proposal, but definitely in a very brief way because you have space limitation. The direct participants and indirect beneficiary. Who will be the direct participant and who will be indirect beneficiary? Now, the direct participants is the students who smoke. And who will be the indirect beneficiaries? The parents, because their children will be relieving from a smoke. So they will be healthy. So they will get healthy children. And this will definitely help on a larger scale. Indirect beneficiary will be the society. Society will have healthy children then. And there will not be many people who will, or many students who will smoke. Because once student smokes, he provokes other also to smoke. If one single student is successful to relieve from this addiction, okay, get rid from this addiction, then he will definitely convince other students also, or he will not at least provoke others to smoke. So these are the indirect beneficiaries that you have to talk on. What are you going to do? So projects output, a specific time period, how many hours of counseling on the nutrition to pregnant ladies, or how many hours of I am intentionally taking very different examples here, so not to stuck into one particular thing. Okay, So you may need, 1 hour counseling per student to get them rid of the smoking, at least for a month or something. So this might be your, tentative time period that you need. Don't promise an unrealistic level of service. Like, through our project, we want to get 100% students from getting rid of addiction of smoking. Don't say that. Reducing number is a practical statement. If you get 100%, then nothing like that, right? What project planning has already taken place? If you have already done research or secured the commitment of participants or done other initial work, describe it. So the funder can see that you are very well prepared and very serious about this project. Who is going to do the work? What are their credentials? So attach the resumes of the key people, such as director, the chairperson, and manager, or the team leader, and so on. So to let the funder understand if these people are capable to handle this research or not. Some funders ask for the name of the project director. For example, the person most responsible for the project. If they are well acquainted with that person, then they easily give you fund because they know that person very closely, or some well known name. Whether your this project will be volunteer based, so or it will be paid. Are you going to pay salary to the people, or will you involve volunteers who will work for free? Demonstrate that the staff or volunteers have the expertise to do this job. Next point is, when will the project take place? So project start date and end date. These are tentative dates. Okay, not necessary that you have to abide by that, but most probably you have to follow those dates. Where will the project take place? You may not know the answer to all these questions at the beginning, right? When you submit the proposal, but the more you know, the better the proposal will look. And even if you have some additional information later on, you can anytime approach to that funder and update the information. Apply the mind's eye test, write in such a way that the person may visualize what kind of project it will be, what kind of research it will be. When you are talking about certain problem of health issues in the smoking children, or health issues in the pregnant ladies in certain areas, or battered women, or something like that, that person should be capable to visualize the intensity of the problem. And at the same time, when you talk about the outcomes of your research, that person should be able to visualize the solution to the problem, or it should be as if you have solved that problem and everything has gone really well. So you have to give a mind's eye map through your funding proposal. So after reading it, could the reader close his eyes and imagine what he would see if he came into the room where your project is happening? Many project descriptions are very vague. So there are no clear ideas what kind of team they are working together. So if you give a nice organogram, then that may definitely help to understand the structure of your organization. If you give an itinerary or a roadmap of your project, how will it begin? Who are the target samples, and who are the direct beneficiaries, who are the indirect beneficiaries? If you draft a nice diagram of it, it definitely helps the funder to understand the way your project will flow. Remember, you can continue to submit updated information to the foundation staff almost until the date the board actually reviews your project and takes the last decision. You have to talk about outcomes or the impact of activities. What impact your project will have, results of your project. You have to talk about that. Other funding. If some other organization have committed funds to the projects or have been asked. So now understand, when you ask for a fund, not necessarily that you can ask only for one company or one funder. You can apply to multiple people, and you may get multiple funds also. So might be somebody is giving you 20% aid, somebody is giving 50% aid, somebody is providing 70% or something like that. Mention it clearly. So how much fund do you expect from the next person? Mention about that. And if somebody else is also helping them out. So it becomes very easy for the funder also to support you in a very concrete way. Future funding. So if you continue these projects in future, how will it be supported? Talk about that. What if the funds given by this person are finished? How will you continue the project? Talk about those possibilities also. Most funders don't want to support the same set of projects forever, and they want to support different kind of people. Then many funders see their niche as funding innovation, supporting new approaches to old problems or finding solutions to new problems. Something like that they would like to invest in. So you have to give a long-term vision, funding plan for the project. That how your project is sustainable. It's not something like you just started randomly without any thought and it became unsuccessful and shut down completely. It should not be like that. If you don't have such a plan, start thinking about it for the success of your project or the organization. This is something is very crucial. Evaluation is very important. How will you know whether you have achieved the desired impact or not? So what are the parameters through which you will judge the if your project is going in the correct direction or not? How much you have achieved? What are your failures, or are there any other things which you need to mend? There might happen, last minute decisions also. So not necessarily that whatever you have mentioned in your proposal has to be as it is. Most probably it has to be as it is, but there are slight possibilities and it is little flexible to make changes also. If you have done a good job of defining them, all you need to do here is describe the information you will gather to tell you how close you came. Please make sure that many people, what do? They take funds and carry on projects. But once you get funds, keep on updating to the funder about the progress of your projects. So in future, if you need some other help, they will definitely help you out because they know the consistency level of your organization and the success ratio too. Now, budget is something which has to be carefully drafted. How much will it cost? Attach one or two separate pages showing the overall expenses and the income from the project. Divide your expenses into three this parts. So personal expenses include the expenses for all the people who will work on these projects. They may be employees of your organization or independent contractors. So list the titles, make a nice table, list the titles, annual pay rate, person working less than full time or less than 12 months, or how many hours will it be engaged, and so on. So for example, if an employee will work half time on the project from October through May, so counseling director, let's say, so 35,000 is something that you think that is their usual salary, then you are going to cut 50% of it. And that person will work for 8 months. So divided by 8 months. So how will it incur? Total amount will be 11,667 for that person. So in this way, you have to, put that forth very clearly. Also consider the time that may be contributed by other staff who are not directly involved. For example, executive director. His salary is 40,000 overall and 5% cutoff because that person is not involved here directly, and 8 months. So it's 1,333. So you have to write down that very clearly. If you are using employees for the project, don't forget to add payroll taxes, such as it happens usually in Western countries. But here in India also might possible that certain foreigners may support you for that. For example, Medicare, unemployment, or workers' compensation, something like that. Fringe benefits, direct project expenses. So these are non-personal expenses. You will not incur if you do not start your project. For example, the traveling costs, printing, the space, equipments, supplies, insurance, and so on. All these things will come once your project will start. So it doesn't matter, you put it forth, get the funds, but remember, if you do not start your project, you have to give this amount back. So please think carefully about all the expenses and add all the possible minute detail. For example, later on you may have to print the brochures. So add the cost of brochures also. You may even ask for a printer, separate printer or something like that. Not necessarily that they approve everything, but it is your duty to add on all possible expenses. Another is administrative or overhead expenses. So for example, if you start your project, then these expenses are there. For example, if you pay 5,000 a month for an office with a space as a rent for 4 employees, you'll continue to rent the office even if the project doesn't happen, because the rent is coming from the funder and that cost is incurred. If the project does happen, 1/4 of the office space will be occupied by the project director, right? So you can charge for 1/4 of your office rent, utilities and administrative cost such as phone, copying, postage and office supplies. So you have to get a tentative information of all these things about it. Be sure to read the funder's fine print or administrative or overhead expenses. Refer lot of other uh, fund proposals before you drop your own. Incorrect addition on budget is one of the most common errors in a grant proposal, because if you add excessive expenses, that may create a very wrong impression and you will fail to get one. All income for a project fits into two categories: earned and contributed. Earned means, for example, if you sell something out of your project, then how much money will you collect? So talk about that. And contributed income means if some other people, for example, if you have started some school, then if some parents are giving you some amount, 100 rupees, 1000 rupees, or somebody is donating something. So if you are getting some other donations from other resources, then those come under contributed income. If you plan to seek funds from, we have already discussed that some other funders, then you have to mention that. Now, understand this terminology first. In-kind contribution. In-kind contributions are the gifts or goods or services instead of cash. For example, somebody may donate a space. Somebody will give you furniture. So these are some in-kind contributions. So all these expenses you have to write very properly. For example, classroom rent is 8,500. Curriculum consultation 10,000. Teacher aid is 800. These are normal expenses. In-kind contribution that Children Welfare Community Foundation has given you space. So that 8,500 rental will be paid by them itself, this foundation. Some other consultant is coming for free. So that $1,000 or 1,000, 10,000 rupees, something like that, is already given for free from that person. So these are in-kind expenses. Okay. So why you should mention in-kind expenses here? That's very important to be understood. It showed all the ways in which the community is supporting you. So how other people are also keen in starting in your project. They also understand the importance of your project. They also understand that how essential it is, crucial it is to start your project. So that also gives a very positive picture. Supplementary material. So supplementary materials such as a copy of your ITR, declaring your organization is tax exempted, a list of your board of directors and their affiliations, their resumes, their qualifications, finance statement from your last complete financial years, budget for your current financial year. If you have done any project, then talk about the cost incurred in that. Budget for your next financial year. This is something you have to mention definitely, even though they don't ask, because that gives that gives an understanding of how you have a very clear eyesight. And then putting it all together, now put the whole thing together in a cover sheet, in a very appropriate cover sheet. Write a cover letter to it, the proposal itself, the budget, the supplementary material, and a cover letter. So this will be a whole sort of document. Don't put the proposal in a very fancy binder. Nice paper clip is fine. Be sure to note if the funder wants multiple copies of anything, because they may have a board of management and they want to give separate copies. So ask for it. Variations on the standard outline. So you can there might be variations on this basis: small request, non-problem based projects, general proposal, capital or endowment proposal. So these are certain kind of proposals which may vary in the structure format. You just have to study the basic. So what are the other questions about grant writing? Should I apply to more than one grant maker at a time? Yes, you can. Should I ask each one project entire cost or just a portion? You can ask for entire cost. Not necessarily you will get one, but if you receive, in case if you receive full financial support from multiple agencies, you can accept one, and then in the rejection you can tell others that you received from this organization first and you are entering it. But please do not accept all the full fundings. That is invalid. You may fall into some legal issues then. Should I use a professional grant writer? My recommendation is definitely you should go for it, because they are very well versed with the type of funding, how to draft the funding proposal, how to make it more attractive and convincing. So that will be a helping hand. But understand one thing, you have to write your proposal by your own, because it's your project. You have to conduct survey, you have to do research, and you have to put your thought process into words. Use grant writer only as a helping hand. Do not just give whole information to that fellow and ask him to write. Then that will not become an authentic document, because you are the one who is keen into conducting that research. So you can write it better. What happens to my proposal after it reaches the grant maker? They scrutinize it and take a decision if they should go for it or not. What should I do if my proposal is rejected? Do not worry. Try to get back to them and understand where it has gone wrong and recorrect that thing. Or else you scrutinize it on your own, show it to some other grant writers and scrutinize it, and again apply fresh to some other organization. What should I do if my proposal is funded? Congratulations. You are free to start your project. Now distribute your fund very properly and use it systematically, and keep updating the funder on the progress of your research. What should I do if I raise some money, but not all I needed? Then whatever portion is remained, for that you can apply separately for funds. So to conclude, seeking grant money can be time consuming and sometimes frustrating. What is more important here is patience. Your tone of writing is very important. That has to be very convincing and assertive and very polite. Use politeness markers such as kindly, please, and if, it will be great if you could, so on. Use affirmative language. Emphasis and stress wherever needed. Wherever think that this is an asset of my project, highlight that by making it bold, or putting it into inverted comma, or repeating it. Your tone has to be convincing. Your proposal has to be very systematic, follow a sequence: introduction, then your objectives, statement of problem, your overall planning, what is your modus operandi, and so on. It should be brief, yet all detailed and necessary information should be included, and end on a positive note, because this is very psychological. These are some references that I have used. Okay, I have just let us glance through a few samples. Here I have opened it for you already. See, this is one nice sample I have got from academia. So this is a funding proposal. This is a stipulated format in which it was supposed to be written. So if you can see on the left side, project name, title, location, applicants, postal details, contact person, contact number, and so on written, and amount and everything is tentatively written. So here the summary starts. So the summary can be a few lines. So read the guidelines first. They give strict line word limits, how many words you can use for summaries and so on. Then organization's profile, highlight those points which are you think are very crucial. Then problem statement, rationale, why your project is important. Under problem statement, what problem you are going to investigate. Thereafter, project goal and objectives. What are your overall aims? Thereafter, possible outcomes and the result of your project. Project outputs. If you have done any project before, you can add on information. Project activities. So if you have conducted any activities before or done any basic research, then talk about that. Target beneficiaries. Here you can talk about direct beneficiaries and indirect beneficiaries both. Project budget. And then under that, you can make certain points, but you have to add a separate sheet like this. Very properly drafted table. So put every column very thoughtfully. So for example, sensitization meeting. So hall hiring, drinks, snacks, transport refunds, fuel. Add on everything into it. Do not think that, oh, how may I talk about the snacks? I have to arrange on my own. It's not like that. These are certain crucial parts of a functioning of an organization. So you have to put every cost in. They funder will take decision which things they have to fund. If they feel that you have put every demand in a very proper, your every demand is valid, they will fund it completely. So this is the way where you have to put your expenses in a very proper way. Do the subtotal of everything. And these are some other tools that you may require, and how many numbers of those. For example, wheelbarrows and brush sets, 5,000, it will cost 5,000, quantity one. And these are some, um, money amount. So this is how you have to draft your proposal nicely. There is the conclusion missing in this project. So you have to make sure that you conclude your project, that in this way, if you receive this fund, we assure you that we make full use of it in a very proper way, and we will be successful in fulfilling your visions or meeting your expectations, something like that. So this is also something important, that start date, end date, that you have to mention timeline. So all the points those we have discussed are very crucial to be added. Okay, put your signature, your name, signature of the chairperson or the director of the organization, that authentifies. Add on all supporting documents, those you think are really crucial. Thank you so much for your patient listening, and the session is open for discussion.
The session is open for discussion now. You can post your queries in the chat box, or you can unmute and interact with the resource person. Thank you all. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, are there any questions, any doubts, or any random discussion or sharing from your side? I hope it was informative. It may help you in a very concrete way. I tried to put forth all the possible things, those I think are really crucial while drafting the funding proposal, research proposal especially. So,
There is a question. Can I read it, ma'am?
yes, please.
In case of minor projects, what are the funding agencies available, ma'am?
Yes. So, as I mentioned, you have to first identify the area of research in which you would like to conduct research. Then identify the sample, target sample, and the sample size. And then you have to venture those organizations, especially there are various NGOs or bigger institutions which offer for funding supports. So those, especially they mention it out. If funding support for projects in education or projects on women health or something like that. So you have to identify from it. There are various government websites where you can get information about various funding agencies too. Yes.
Please post your questions in chat box. I'll read it too, ma'am.
Yes. So once again, thank you so much, IoT, for giving me such a wonderful opportunity to interact on a very important topic, very crucial one, because many people have very vibrant ideas, but they lack the idea of how to put it forth. So this is how you have to put your ideas forth in a very proper way, and it is possible to get funds if you could convince through your weapon of words very successfully. Thank you so much, all of you, and have a great day ahead.
Any more questions? Think there are no questions. Shall we wind up now?
No issues. Go ahead.
On behalf of IoT, I thank Dr. Vidya ma'am for the very informative and detailed session, ma'am. We thank you once again for the amazing presentation. Your tips and techniques will be very fruitful and beneficial, ma'am. Thank you very much for your efforts, ma'am. I thank all the participants for joining the session today. Thank you all. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Kindly submit the feedback form using the link that has been posted in the chat box. Thank you all. Please post your feedback using the link that has been posted in the chat box. Thank you all.